I shaved every inch of my body just in case. She joked before a concert. I pretended not to hear, but while she partied, I packed her life into boxes. The next morning, she came home drunk to an eviction notice and a locked door. Hey, Reddit. I've been sitting on this for a while and figured I'd throw it out there. My ex and I were together for 2 years, and everything fell apart after one night that showed me exactly who she was. I handled things quietly, legally, and maybe a bit coldly, depending on who you ask. Some people said I overreacted. Others said I showed restraint. So I'll let you guys decide. Did I go too far? Or was I just finally standing up for myself? If someone told me that one sentence could end a 2-year relationship, I'd have laughed. Turns out it can. I'm Jeremy, 32, work in telecom, own an apartment that I actually worked my butt off for. My girlfriend Emma moved in after a year of dating. She called herself independent and said paying me rent made her feel like she was pulling her weight. I even drafted a simple written agreement. Nothing fancy, just to keep things clear. It was her idea, actually. For a while, she sent her share every month on time, acting proud about it. But lately? Excuses. Work's been slow. My card glitched. I'll send it tomorrow. Tomorrow turned into next week, and next week turned into nothing. I didn't push it. I figured whatever. People hit rough patches. That was my mistake. It was a Friday night. I was off work early, planning to crash on the couch with takeout and a movie. Emma was running around the apartment like she was late for an interview. Hairdryer blasting, closet doors slamming, perfume cloud heavy enough to kill mosquitoes. She was going to a concert with her friends, Sarah and Rachel. They came over around 7, loud, dressed like they were about to headline the show themselves. I stayed in the living room, pretending to scroll through Netflix. They went straight to the bedroom to get ready. Their voices carried through the cracked door. I wasn't eavesdropping at first. They were just loud. But then, right between talk about outfits and drinks, Emma's voice cut through. I shaved every inch of myself, she said, laughing. You know, just in case. Rachel burst out laughing. Sarah hesitated, then awkwardly laughed too. I froze. Not a blink. Not a breath. Just that one line echoing in my head like a bad ringtone. Just in case. It wasn't even the words that hit me. It was the way she said them. Casual, confident, like it was no big deal. She wasn't embarrassed or joking to cover insecurity. She was bragging. My brain was trying to find some way to make it mean anything else. Maybe she meant just in case of sweat or something dumb. But deep down, I knew exactly what she meant. They came out of the bedroom about 20 minutes later. Emma was glowing. New dress, full face of makeup, hair perfect. She looked good. She always looked good. But something about her that night felt fake, like she was playing a character. Hey, babe, she said, leaning down to give me a quick kiss. We're heading out. Don't wait up. I looked at her, smiled a little. All right. Have fun. Stay safe. She didn't notice anything off. She never did unless it affected her directly. She just grabbed her purse, laughed at something Rachel said, and they left, heels clicking down the hall, laughter fading into the night. It all lined up perfectly. I wasn't angry, not yet. I just felt done, like someone had flipped a switch. You spend 2 years thinking you're building something, and then one dumb sentence tells you the foundation was rotten from the start. I stood up, turned off the lights, and walked to the bedroom. Half the closet was hers. Drawers filled with her things. Her shoes lined up like she owned the place. My apartment, the one I worked years for, had slowly turned into her stage. And just like that, I decided it was over. No screaming match. No dramatic breakup speech. I wasn't giving her that satisfaction. She'd made her choice before the concert even started. I was just late to realizing it. She thought she was walking out for a concert. She had no idea she was walking out of my life for good. By morning, Emma would no longer be my problem. That thought played in my head like a calm instruction, not revenge. I wasn't pacing or yelling, or imagining dramatic lines to say. I just felt done. I grabbed 3 duffel bags from the closet and a few empty boxes I'd kept from when I first moved in. I started with her side of the closet. It looked like a department store. Color-coordinated tops, dresses, shoes lined up perfectly. I pulled each hanger down, folded everything neatly, and placed it in the bags. As I worked, my mind replayed every small thing that I had brushed off before. The times she tilted her phone away when she texted. The work dinners that somehow ended at 2 a.m. The male coworker she swore was like a brother. The fake smiles. The short temper. The way she'd turn cold after a good weekend like she needed to reset. I folded one of her blouses and almost laughed. It still had a price tag on it. She'd probably bought it to wear for someone else. When I opened her purse drawer, something slipped out. A folded receipt. I picked it up, thinking it was from a restaurant. Nope. The top read, Moonlight Room Gentlemen's Club, dated last Friday. Under her name. $87.50, cover plus drinks. I stared at it for a solid minute. She hadn't even bothered to hide it. It wasn't like she worked there, and she sure as hell didn't mention going there with friends. I guess girls' night out had a different meaning now. That was the exact moment everything clicked. It wasn't just the comment. She'd been living in my place while shopping for someone else's attention, playing the loyal girlfriend while sneaking around like a teenager who thought she was smarter than everyone else. I tossed the receipt into my wallet to save as a proof and kept going. Methodical, clean. In her nightstand, I found her dream journal. I didn't read it. I wasn't interested in knowing what kind of delusional fantasies she'd been writing about. The only thing I took was the small ceramic cat figurine her grandmother gave her. I wrapped it carefully. I wasn't cruel, just efficient. By 2:30 a.m., her side of the bedroom was spotless. It didn't even look like she'd ever lived there. I took the boxes to the living room and stacked them by the door. I stepped back and looked at the pile by the entrance. 6 boxes, 3 bags, and her purse on top. I checked my phone clock, 3:17 a.m. I snapped a photo of the stack, timestamp included. Not for bragging, just in case she tried to pull something later. Documentation was my insurance now. When I finally went to bed, I locked the bedroom door behind me. It wasn't fear, just prevention. I knew she'd be coming back late and drunk. Emma was predictable that way. At 4:03 a.m., the front door clicked open. Then came the sound of heels. Uneven steps, a stumble, a crash. What the? Her voice slurred, followed by the thud of boxes tipping. Jeremy? I stayed silent. She moved around, rustling through the boxes, realization slowly sinking in. Jeremy? What is this? She yelled, voice cracking. Are you serious right now? She tried the bedroom door. The handle shook, then came pounding. Open the door! What the hell is all this? Why is my stuff by the door? I slipped in my earplugs and laid back. Her yelling turned from confusion to anger, to full-blown sobbing. You're overreacting. You can't just throw me out like this. I didn't respond. I didn't even flinch. The more she screamed, the calmer I felt. After about 20 minutes, the noise stopped. I heard shuffling, then the front door creak open. She started dragging her boxes out one by one. It sounded like punishment in real time. Each scrape of cardboard against the floor was another part of her leaving. By 5 a.m., silence again. The apartment felt completely still. I closed my eyes and finally relaxed. No rage, no regret, just relief. Emma could spin whatever story she wanted later. Cry to her friends, play the victim. None of that mattered now, because everything she owned was gone. And for the first time in a long time, everything that mattered to me was right where it should be. I woke up around 8 a.m. with the kind of peace that didn't feel real at first. No alarms, no perfume smell lingering in the hallway, no passive-aggressive music blasting from the bathroom. Just silence. The sunlight coming through the blinds felt different, clean. When I walked into the kitchen, the first thing I saw was a crumpled note on the counter. My name was written across it in big red lipstick, messy letters. The paper had smudges on it. Mascara or tears, probably both. I didn't bother reading it. I just looked at it for a second, then tossed it straight into the trash. Whatever she had to say came too late. I made coffee, and while waiting for it to brew, I noticed something off about the living room. The rug was crooked, like someone had dragged something heavy. I followed the marks and saw the TV. It had a crack running across the screen, dead center. Closer look, a heel mark, like she'd kicked it or hit it on purpose. Next to it, one of the vases I'd bought during my first year here was smashed into a pile of white shards. The cabinet corner was dented, and a photo frame had fallen face down. So, she didn't just pack and leave, she threw a mini tantrum on her way out. This was classic Emma. Couldn't handle being ignored, so she made sure to leave a mark. I actually laughed a little, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. I took out my phone and started taking photos. Wide shots, close-ups, timestamps, every angle. If she thought she could come back crying about how unfair I was, she was going to find out that actions have paperwork attached. After cleaning up a bit, I called my sister, Lauren. She's 5 years older, an attorney, and probably the only person on earth who could stay calmer than me in a disaster. She answered on the second ring. You sound weirdly relaxed, she said. I had a productive night, I told her. Emma's gone. There was a pause. You kicked her out? She kicked herself out. I just helped her pack. I explained what happened. The overheard comment, the packing, the meltdown at 4 a.m., and the damage I just found. Lauren didn't gasp or scold. She just went into lawyer mode immediately. All right, she said. First, document everything. Photos, timestamps, keep them backed up. Second, file a police report for property damage. It doesn't need to be dramatic, just official. Third, change your locks today. And last, make sure she can't claim tenant rights. Tenant rights? I asked. Lauren said, since you own the apartment and her name isn't on any lease or title, she's not a legal tenant, just a guest with a private rent agreement. And since she stopped paying, that agreement's already broken. You had every right to end it and tell her to leave. She can't claim residency or tenant protection. I'll text you the exact statute just in case she tries to pull something. I opened my laptop while she talked and started downloading the photos from my phone. I could already feel my calm shifting into focus again. Lauren wasn't just a lawyer. She was a problem solver. And right now, Emma was a problem that needed to stay gone. By the way, Lauren added, did you ever take your name off that BMW loan? I froze. No, she still has it. She's been paying it though. Right, but you're the co-signer, remember? That means if she misses a payment or decides to play games, they'll come after you. You need to keep tabs on that, especially now that she's angry. She wasn't wrong. The BMW was her dream car. A sign of success, she'd called it. Her credit was trash when she applied, so she begged me to co-sign. Said it was temporary, that she'd refinance once she built her credit. 2 years later, she never did. All right, I said. I'll dig out the paperwork. Good. And Jeremy? Yeah? Don't feel bad. She made her choices. You're just making sure she lives with them. I couldn't help but smirk. You should have been a therapist. Trust me, she said. Law is cheaper than therapy. After the call, I grabbed my jacket and drove to the hardware store. The locksmith came by noon. Watching him change out the locks felt better than any closure talk could have. When he handed me the new keys, I felt like the place was finally mine again. Not ours, mine. I filed the police report later that afternoon. The officer who took it barely blinked when I explained. Probably not the first time he'd heard about someone's ex going berserk with heels and household items. Once that was done, I scanned the BMW loan papers. My name sat neatly beside hers, just waiting to be financially dragged through the mud if she decided to get petty. I placed the documents in a folder labeled Emergency Emma. Fitting title. By evening, the apartment was quiet again, the way it used to be before she moved in. I reheated leftovers and thought about how she'd probably tell everyone I'd lost it. Let her talk. I had photos, a police report, and peace of mind. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was living with a stranger. I was just living, finally, in my own space. That peace lasted about 48 hours before Emma did what entitled people always do when reality doesn't go their way. She made up her own version. It started Saturday afternoon. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from mutual friends. I ignored them at first, assuming it was leftover group chat noise. Then my buddy Tom called. He doesn't call unless it's serious. Dude, he said, sounding hesitant. You should probably know what Emma's saying. I leaned back in my chair. Go ahead. I could use a laugh. She's telling everyone you snapped on her out of nowhere. Said you kicked her out while she was asleep. That you've been cold for months, made her feel unwanted, and apparently you're emotionally unavailable. I actually laughed out loud. Emotionally unavailable? That's rich. She used my credit score to buy a BMW and still couldn't pay fake rent on time. Tom sighed. Yeah, I figured it was crap, but she's got a few people believing her. She's crying in the group chat, saying she has nowhere to go and that you threw her away like trash. It's dramatic. Sounds like her all right, I said. Queen of victimhood. Do you want me to say something? No, I replied. Let her talk. I'll handle it. I hung up and scrolled through my messages. Sure enough, I had 4 unread texts from people I barely talked to, all variations of, hey, is everything okay? And Emma's really upset. Of course she was. Upset that her lies weren't sticking as easily as before. I didn't post anything. I didn't defend myself online. People like her feed on drama, and I wasn't giving her a buffet. What I needed was evidence. Clean, undeniable, factual. Then I remembered Sarah. She was one of the girls who'd been there the night of the shaved comment. She'd laughed awkwardly, not fully in on the joke. Out of the 3, she was the only one who didn't seem fake. I found her on Instagram through those old group photos, sent her a quick DM, and she gave me her number. I hesitated for a second, didn't want to drag her into it, but then I thought about Emma spinning her nonsense while I stayed silent. No thanks. I sent a text. Hey, Sarah, I know this is awkward, But can I ask you something? When you guys were here Friday before the concert, you heard what Emma said, right? About shaving just in case? Was I wrong to take that seriously? She replied within 2 minutes. No, you weren't wrong. It was a lousy thing to say. I told her in the car she crossed a line. Bingo. I texted back, she's telling everyone I threw her out for no reason. Would you be okay showing what she said that night in your group chat? I just want to set the record straight. I'm not trying to start drama. 10 minutes passed. No response. I figured that was it. She probably didn't want to get involved. Then my phone pinged again. A screenshot. It was from their girls' group chat, time-stamped Friday 9:17 p.m., right after they left my place. Rachel had texted, "That cute drummer is totally eyeing you." Emma's reply, "I know, right? Here's hoping. Good thing I'm ready." Sarah had just reacted with an eye roll emoji. I stared at the screenshot, half disgusted, half relieved. There it was. Proof. Not just a slip of the tongue, but an actual confession of intent. She wasn't joking. She was preparing. I texted Sarah back, "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." Her reply was simple. "I hate lying. She's been out of control lately." I sent the screenshot straight to Tom, along with a photo of the gentleman's club receipt I'd found in her purse. "You can show these if anyone asks what really happened," I wrote. "I'm not getting into a back and forth. Truth speaks for itself." Tom's response came quick. "Holy crap. Yeah, this changes everything. I'll share it in the chat." 5 minutes later, my phone started blowing up again. Not with accusations this time, but apologies. "Man, I'm so sorry. We didn't know. Bro, she's wild for that. Glad you're doing okay." Apparently, once the screenshot hit the group chat, the sympathy train derailed fast. Emma tried to twist it, saying it was just girl talk, but nobody was buying it. Tom said when he posted the image, the chat went silent for a full minute before people started calling her out. Then came the best part. Sarah told me later that Emma tried to accuse her of betrayal. Sarah's response? "I'm not lying for you, Emma. You made your bed. Lie in it." Then she left the group chat entirely. By Sunday evening, the story had flipped completely. The same people who pitied Emma on Saturday were ghosting her now. Her support vanished as fast as her rent payments. I didn't need to say a word. The facts handled it for me. That night, I sat on the couch, phone silent, apartment peaceful again. I looked at the cracked TV and thought about how she'd probably throw another tantrum if she knew her empire of lies had collapsed in 24 hours. The funny thing is, I didn't even feel triumphant, just satisfied. Like taking out the trash. Not exciting, but necessary. Emma wanted attention. I gave her consequences instead. And judging by the silence from her side of the world, she wasn't enjoying them. That silence broke 3 days later when I got an email from her. Subject line, "Read this." I opened it, and there it was. The classic Emma tone. Dramatic, accusatory, and dripping with entitlement. "You think you can just erase me? You can't. You co-signed my car. You're tied to me whether you like it or not. If you don't meet me and talk like an adult, I'll stop paying for the BMW. Let's see how your precious credit holds up. You ruined my life over a stupid misunderstanding. Your turn to pay." I read it twice. It was so perfectly her. No accountability, no remorse, just threats dressed up as victimhood. She really believed she still had leverage over me. I didn't reply. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I took a screenshot of the entire email, opened my files, and pulled up the BMW loan documents. Lauren had warned me this could happen. She was right again. I called the loan company. "Auto Finance, this is Daniel. How can I help you?" "Hi, Daniel. My name's Jeremy Carter. I'm a co-signer on loan number 456C2. The primary borrower, Emma Watson, no longer lives at the listed address. She just emailed me saying she intends to stop making payments. I have the email if you'd like proof." He paused. "She said that in writing?" "Yes. I can forward it to your collections department." "Please do," he said quickly. "I'll open a case right now. Given what you've told me, we may need to secure the asset. Do you know where the vehicle is currently located?" I did. Tom had mentioned she was still crashing at Rachel's place across town. "Yes," I said. "She's staying at an address on Oakfield Lane. I can send it with the email." "Perfect. Thank you for calling, Mr. Carter. You did the right thing." I forwarded everything. The email, her address, even the loan copy showing both our names. Then I sat back and sipped my coffee. No anger, no nerves, just calm, knowing the wheels of consequence were officially turning. She'd already missed her last payment by nearly 3 weeks and ignored 2 reminder notices, so her account was already flagged for repossession. My call just gave them the last piece they needed. confirmation of where the car was. 2 days later, I finished work early and decided to take a different route home. I'll admit, curiosity played a role. Not emotional curiosity, just tactical. I wanted to see if the loan company had followed through. As I turned down Oakfield, I didn't even have to look hard. There it was, a repo truck parked in front of Rachel's apartment complex. Emma's white BMW sat hooked up at an angle, back tires lifted. On the sidewalk, two familiar figures were losing their minds. Emma was yelling something about harassment while waving her arms like she owned the street. Rachel stood beside her, equally useless, shouting at the repo driver who didn't even look up from his clipboard. The driver's face was blank, professional. This wasn't his first meltdown of the week job. Emma stomped toward him. "You can't take my car. I make payments. This is illegal." He pointed at the clipboard. "Talk to your lender, ma'am." They gave the order. "I am the borrower," she screamed. "This is theft." He didn't bother answering. He just motioned to his partner, who tightened the toe straps. The look on Emma's face was pure disbelief, the moment someone realizes the world doesn't bend to their ego. She shouted something I couldn't hear, then threw her purse at the curb in frustration. Rachel tried to calm her, but Emma shoved her away. I stayed in my car, a few cars back in traffic. I didn't want to be seen. I just watched for a few seconds. Not smiling, not gloating. It wasn't revenge. It was symmetry. The truck pulled off, BMW in tow, leaving Emma standing there screaming into her phone. I rolled down my window just slightly, heard her voice echoing something about calling a lawyer, and rolled it right back up. Then I drove off. I didn't feel victorious. I felt done. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. 6 new voicemails from no caller ID. I already knew who. I unblocked her for 1 minute just to confirm. The first message started with crying. "You can't just ruin me like this, Jeremy. That car was my life. You're a heartless jerk." The second one flipped to anger. "You're pathetic. You think you won? You'll regret this." The third was pure venom. "You'll never find anyone like me again." Good. That was the point. I didn't listen to the rest. I saved them all into a folder labeled Emma Evidence, then blocked her again. Lauren called later that evening after I filled her in. She sounded impressed. "You handled that like a pro. She basically handed you the rope and tied the knot herself." "Yeah," I said, and then tried to blame me for the knot. She laughed. Typical. After the call, I leaned back on the couch and stared at the cracked TV again. It still worked on half the screen, but I didn't even care anymore. Some people think closure comes from big speeches or apologies. For me, it came from watching a tow truck pull away with a car I should have never co-signed for. No fireworks, no shouting match, just quiet balance, the kind you only get when karma does its job right on time. That night, I deleted every photo of Emma left on my phone. No hate, no heartbreak, just cleanup. The final message she sent before being blocked read, "You'll regret this." I always land on my feet. She might have believed that when she had wheels. By the next week, karma decided to keep things consistent. I got a call from the local police department about the property damage report I'd filed earlier. The officer said, "We've reviewed the photos and statements. Since she admitted to being there that night and the damage matches your report, we've documented it. You can pursue reimbursement in small claims." Music to my ears. I called Lauren immediately. She didn't even sound surprised. "Good," she said. "We'll push it through officially. She can't just smash your stuff and walk away." Lauren helped me file a claim through small claims court, attaching the police report, timestamps, and photos of the broken TV, the dented cabinet, and the cracked vase. It was clean, organized, and completely airtight. 2 weeks later, Emma got her notice. She didn't show up to the first hearing, probably thinking it was just a bluff. The judge ruled in my favor. She was legally required to pay me for the damages, a few $1,000s total. When the letter confirming the payment came through, I framed it for a day just to enjoy the view. Lauren joked, "You handled this breakup like a boardroom audit." "Hey," I said, "she wanted to treat life like a game." I just read the rulebook. It felt good. Not vengeful, not smug, just clean. For once, I'd handled something the right way from start to finish. By mid-month, my routine was simple. Work, gym, peace. No crying, no yelling, no silent treatments. Just quiet. Then Sarah texted me. "Hey, you free this weekend? Coffee's on me. I owe you an update." We met at a small cafe downtown. She looked uncomfortable, but also relieved, like she needed to unload something. "So," she started, "Emma's not doing great." "Define not great," I said, stirring my coffee. "She's broke. The car's gone, obviously. Rachel kicked her out last week after a huge fight. I guess Emma's been blaming everyone but herself. I leaned back. That tracks. Sarah sighed. And Rachel told me something else. I debated even saying it, but you should probably know. I raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. Rachel said Emma hooked up with one of the guys from the gentleman's club, the same night that receipt was from. I just stared at her. The room suddenly felt heavier, even though I'd been expecting something like that deep down. Sarah looked apologetic. I'm sorry. I didn't know how far it went until now. I nodded slowly. No, you did the right thing. It doesn't shock me. It just confirms what I already suspected. After coffee, I drove straight to a clinic. Not because I was paranoid, just because I refused to let her recklessness touch me again. Quick test, clean results. The doctor told me, "You're good," and I walked out feeling like I'd just closed the last open tab of that chapter. Lauren called that evening. How's freedom treating you? She asked. Better than therapy, I said. You were right about everything. She chuckled. I usually am. With every passing day, the noise from Emma's side faded further into nothing. She wasn't just out of my apartment. She was out of my system. Sometimes I'd catch myself noticing little differences. The sink stayed empty. The bed stayed made. The remote stayed where I left it. No guilt trips, no tension, just calm. The apartment didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt new. A few friends who'd taken her side early on reached out, wanting to clear the air. I didn't bother. There was nothing left to clear. Everyone had seen enough of Emma to understand who she really was. I spent my weekends fixing things I'd ignored for months. Small repairs, hanging pictures, upgrading furniture. Every improvement felt like deleting another piece of her. By the end of the month, my space didn't just look different. It felt different. Lighter. Quieter. Like the air itself had reset. On my last call with Lauren about the case, she said, most people would have blown up or done something stupid. You just handled it like a chess match. Because that's what she never learned, I said. Actions have moves, not feelings. She laughed. Put that on a mug. I hung up and looked around the apartment. The new TV glowing, my desk clear, the evening sunlight hitting the floor just right. No drama, no guessing games, no chaos disguised as love, just peace, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. I thought about how much time I'd wasted trying to fix a person who was never broken, just selfish. Losing her wasn't a tragedy. It was subtraction by addition. Sometimes you don't realize how heavy someone is until they're gone, and your whole life finally stands upright again. Emma used to say she made my world brighter. Turns out she was just blocking the light. It had been about a month since I'd heard anything about her. The chaos she left behind had turned into quiet, the kind that doesn't feel lonely, just clean. I woke up early, worked out, made breakfast, and didn't have to check my phone for damage control. Life had gone back to something simple, something mine. That morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Hi, is this Jeremy Carter? A polite woman asked. This is Linda from Oakwood Residences. I'm calling to verify a rental reference for an applicant named Emma Watson. She listed you as her former landlord. I almost laughed. The audacity. Sure, I said, keeping my voice professional. She stayed in my apartment for about 2 years, but was never on the lease. She was a guest with a private agreement to contribute rent. I see, Linda said, her tone tightening. Were those payments on time? Not always, I replied. She was late several times and eventually stopped paying entirely. Understood. Any issues with property damage or conduct? I paused for a second, then said, yes. She caused damage to my TV, furniture, and personal items when she left. It's been legally settled, but you might want to keep that in mind. There was silence on the line for a moment before Linda said quietly, Thank you for your honesty. That's all I needed. Happy to help, I said, and hung up. I knew that tone. Emma's rental application just died on the spot. That night, I sat on the couch with a movie playing when I heard a sound that didn't belong. Sharp and loud, like glass shattering. At first, I thought something fell in the kitchen. Then, I heard it again and again. I got up, walked to the front window, and froze. In my driveway, under the streetlight, stood Emma, swinging a hammer straight into my car windshield. The first hit had cracked it. The next few were pure rage. She looked unrecognizable, hair wild, tears streaking her face, screaming words I couldn't make out through the glass. Emma! I yelled, throwing the door open and rushing outside. What the hell are you doing? She spun toward me, hammer still in hand. You ruined my life, she screamed, voice shaking. You took everything from me over a stupid joke. I stopped a few feet away, keeping distance. Put that down before you hurt yourself, I said, already dialing 911 on speaker. She started sobbing, half yelling, half gasping. You think you're so perfect? You think you can just throw me away and move on like I was nothing? You weren't nothing, I said flatly. You were a liar who got caught. Her face twisted in anger. She hurled the hammer at the ground, grabbed a shard of glass from the windshield, and pointed it at me. Don't you dare talk to me like that! You don't understand what you did to me? She shouted, stepping closer. I kept my phone up, filming. Emma, stop! The police are on their way. She laughed. A cracked, hysterical sound. You destroyed me, Jeremy. You think I cheated? I was just having a little fun. I didn't even do anything wrong. I stared at her, disgusted. A little fun? You flirted with a drummer, went to a gentleman's club, trashed my place, and tried to blackmail me with a car loan. That's not fun. That's delusion. She screamed, You never appreciated me. Because there was nothing left to appreciate, I shot back. You need help, Emma. Not another excuse. Her expression shifted, almost breaking into something like guilt, but it didn't last. She waved the glass again. You'll regret this. You ruined my life. Then stop digging, I said calmly. Right then, red and blue lights flickered down the street. 2 police cruisers pulled up fast, lights flooding the driveway. Emma froze, realizing it was over. Drop it, one officer yelled, stepping out with his flashlight aimed at her. Emma dropped the shard, her hands trembling. The other officer grabbed her arms and pulled her back while she started sobbing again, saying, He lied about me. He ruined everything. They didn't argue. They cuffed her gently but firmly and guided her to the car. She kept crying, her voice fading as they read her rights. I gave the officers the security footage from my front camera, along with my phone recording. One officer nodded and said, We'll add vandalism and trespassing. You did the right thing calling us immediately. When they drove her away, I just stood there, staring at the cracked windshield. Lauren showed up about an hour later after I called her. She looked at the damage, then at me. You okay? Yeah, I said, exhaling. Just tired of being right about her. Lauren gave a half smile. You want to file for vandalism, trespassing, and attempted assault? Every single one, I said. She's not walking away from this one. We went over the paperwork that same night. By morning, the report was filed and airtight. Within a few days, word got around, fast. Rachel texted me saying, I'm not associated with her anymore. And apparently, Emma had shown up at Rachel's too, screaming about betrayal before Rachel called the cops herself. Then the news hit Emma's parents. They called Lauren's office trying to ask about the charges, but Lauren didn't budge. Later, I heard from Sarah that Emma's parents were ashamed, completely blindsided. They refused to let her stay at their house after the arrest. And her job? Gone. HR found out about the vandalism and arrest record. Her manager suspended her indefinitely, pending internal review. Translation: career over. Her world crumbled exactly the way she'd built it, loudly and without logic. Lauren handled everything professionally, filing for restitution again. Emma didn't even show up this time. When the dust settled, I got my car fixed. New windshield, new paint, clean slate. Standing in the driveway after it was done, I realized how poetic it was. She'd literally tried to break what I built, and all it took was a repair bill to erase her damage completely. I didn't think about her much after that. Occasionally, her name came up through someone who used to know her. The story always ended the same. Jobless, homeless, cut off. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just didn't feel anything at all. That night, I sat in my living room, lights dim, looking out at the calm street. No yelling, no chaos, no broken glass. Just peace. Emma thought I ruined her life because I wouldn't let her keep wrecking mine. But the truth? She did it all by herself. She called it love. I called it survival. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.